in the agriculture space. Now, we're back here in studio with our two guests, as indicated, we continue our discussion about the various aspects of the value chain and the transformation and governance aspect of food systems. I still have my guests here in studio to remind you the names: Emmanuel Atamba, food systems policy expert, and of course, Evans Muswahili Ladema, chairman of the Lake Region Food Systems Network. To start us off, I think we look at what exactly has been happening and what has not happened. Gentlemen, we've discussed a lot about a lot of the things that should be. I think a good place to start this second part is to talk about the challenges that you face. I think I want to start off with you, Ledama, as a farmer.
Yeah.
And as a person in that space, what are the main challenges that you have encountered that are stopping you doing what we've talked about?
Thank you very much. Today, an ordinary Kenyan farmer is someone who's struggling so much.
Mm-hmm.
Struggling with factors, I can say, both from within and without.
Yes.
From without, these are external factors over which this farmer has very little influence over or control over. These range from things like, the high cost of production inputs.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's the issue of climate change that we all are aware of. We have, the issue around the morals and the values of the people who we work with and we live with.
Yes.
More often than not, you'll hear our farmers complain that their livestock have been stolen. Of course, we know, like in some parts of Kenya, it's such a big problem. We hear about the cattle rustling in Baringo and elsewhere.
Yes.
But just as it happens in Baringo, in the rest of Kenya, there are farmers who struggle with, their chicken being stolen.
Security.
Their maize, just being harvested.
Yeah, from the shamba.
From the shamba. Someone is expecting to get the maize, drying up so that they do cereal.
Yes.
But someone comes and plucks the entire maize and goes to the market as green maize. Yeah. So, issues of theft, issues of climate change, as I'm putting it, the high cost of inputs. And then, of course, now when you come to within, you realize that our soils are no longer as healthy as they were.
Yes.
Our soils have undergone a lot of degradation, both arising from, continuous cultivation,
yes,
but also because of poor agronomic practices that most of the farmers have been employing. You realize that when the fertility levels went down, many farmers went into external inputs like fertilizer, petrochemical fertilizers, which after having been used for quite some time, the soils either became too acidic, they formed hard pans, the water retention capability of the soils just went down, so there are no longer soil living microorganisms. So all these factors, again, are making it very difficult for a Kenyan farmer today to thrive.
Yes.
Despite the fact that they're really struggling and they really want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a lot to unpack there. And I'll come back to you for possible solutions, because I know, of course, that farmers have their own homegrown solutions. And, of course, you have been engaging. I want to come to Emmanuel. The fact of the matter is there are various challenges that you have also found that are holding farmers back, are holding people at various stages across the entire value chain. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, I think Mr. Mswahili raises a very important point, and I remember one time we were doing county participation, actually together with KENAF.
Yes.
And when we raised this point, because we asked what is the number one problem that farmers face in that particular county in Western Kenya, I'll not mention the county because my lawyer is on holiday. But one of the challenges, it was not about pests, it was not about diseases, it was about theft. And just to add to his list, some of the things that farmers are struggling with, especially in Western Kenya and in areas that you'd consider to be high potential, therefore should be food secure, is even stealing of farm implements and farm equipments. Water pumps, pipes, and all these things. So farmers are being set back 10 times. And if you ask yourself, if you drive towards Ngong Road at 10 p.m., you'll see the yards there with very nice cars worth millions of shillings. The cars are not locked up. You can see the cars. You can actually go and touch them.
Even the curious.
Yes. You can actually go and touch them. But no one steals from those car yards. No one steals from there. No one steals from malls and supermarkets. Because development has reached there. There's security, there's police stations and all that. We need to look at food systems and agricultural development from a holistic perspective and address rural development as a whole. And when you address rural development, you address security challenges, you address unemployment in rural areas, because you cannot farm around unemployed, hungry people.
Yes.
They will steal all your produce. They even harvest bananas before you know that they were ready. So you come check and your bananas are not there. And these are serious issues to farmers.
Definitely.
You can imagine if you had a car yard and you woke up in the morning and there was nothing in that yard, you'll definitely go out of business. That is the same thing that happens to farmers. The other aspect of rural development that is very important for farmers is to address time poverty. In rural areas, you find that people do not have access to tap water. And they do not have access to water around them in some areas. You find that especially women in rural areas and girls have to walk kilometers still in this day and age to get water. That time spent, or I would say wasted, to go and get water from very far, if that water was piped and brought closer to their households, you'll find that women, a lot of women in rural areas, would be investing that time in doing agricultural enterprises and therefore improving production, improving their own food security and enhancing production, contributing to our food basket. But we are missing out on that because we are not tackling that. You know, issues of firewood, access to clean energy, and energy also for use in farm operations. Today, the government is still taxing solar energy, for example. A lot of farmers who are in rural areas where the main grid has not reached are depending on solar. So why are we not addressing issues of ensuring that farmers can use, for example, solar-powered irrigation, which is clean, climate-friendly, and is also economically efficient for farmers? So these are some of the things that we have to look at in a very holistic manner to ensure that then the farmer has the right capacity to really transform. Farmers are not waiting for anyone to feed them or anyone to give them anything. They don't need handouts. They don't need even the subsidies that we are pumping billions into. What farmers need is an enabling environment. And I think here is where we need to take the counties to task. We are seeing counties spending a lot of money. There was a county, I will not mention the name, that spent a lot of millions in putting flowers for a certain event, one-day event, millions of shillings. These resources from counties are supposed to create that enabling environment for farmers to be able to produce, to be able to generate revenue, so that we are addressing rural poverty.
Do you think farmers at the grassroots have been empowered enough and organized enough to be able to demand these things? Because we know that they're supposed to be planning for resources that come before, so that they get into the budget and are prioritized during the next financial year. Do you think they're taking part?
Farmers are organized. But there has been effort for many years, even before I was born in this country, to always disorganize farmers. You know, farmer associations were very strong during the second president's regime. You know, who disorganized them? It is the government. So you see that even if farmers are trying to organize even at county level to really take proposals, to take petitions, there is a lot of deliberate effort to disorganize them. And you see that, for example, if you ask you know, an average farmer today, what are the functions that the county is supposed to deliver and what are the functions that the national is supposed to deliver, they will be confused between the two levels of government. And this has been done deliberately by the political class because you see a member of parliament posting on social media that they have done a road, which is not part of their docket, and a senator who has done what and what. And so this confusion is created by the political class to a point that it becomes very difficult to create very strong mechanisms for accountability. So the farmer is there. They see that there's a problem, but they simply don't know who to ask. So it is upon civil society, which I think also should take part of the blame, because we also have a very weak civil society. And as I said, sometimes we focus on non-issues and we forget the real issues. It is upon civil society to really do its mandate, to organize producers and to organize also consumers on the other side, so that we have a very meaningful debate about how we want to move forward with our food systems.
I want to come to Mr. Mswahili. Evans, what is the place then of locally developed but modern solutions to all these challenges we've talked about, especially in view of, for example, and I'm glad you brought up the issue of the cars and things on Ngong Road. If you go to parts of this country, you'll find charcoal and other things by the roadside for weeks, and nobody touches them. Because people respect the sanctity of private property in these places. How do we get these values to start working in other places at such a level?
It's a tall order. It's a tall order because it requires a whole mind,
change in mindset.
Change in mindset. But again, there's also need to even strengthen governance systems in those rural areas. Because I remember when I was young, there there used to be a team of robbers that used to operate in my area. And they were so callous and so courageous that they would write to you and tell you, on this and this date, we are coming to clean up your shop.
Really?
And they would come here.
Wow.
And it was so bad.
What about the local police? And
they were there. In fact, a number of times those people could rob just close to a police station.
Yes.
And I want to believe at that time it was because of the weakness in the way the
collision and
the police force of that time was organized.
Yes.
Today we have a police service.
Yes.
I want to believe things are a little bit better. Now, you realize that because of perhaps many years of...
were they ever arrested?
Oh, no. No one.
They went scot-free.
Oh, no one ever got arrested. Probably they have been dealt with by rules of natural justice elsewhere in a different way. Yes. But those guys never got to get arrested. But I also wanted to say that the kind of challenges that my brother and I have just alluded to,
yes,
in terms of where people don't even respect private property, it is also informed by a number of reasons. One of them being perhaps just the low moral values that are there. But again, when you look at people who have been sort of dispossessed and people have been marginalized for so long, they tend to develop a feeling of hatred against those people who are having anything around them. And their biggest motivation is always to go and take it from them. So they don't care what happens thereafter. Yeah, and if we were to change the way we even share the kind of benefits that are accrued within our spaces. Like for instance, when I look at Western Kenya, for example, I see a lot of wealth in terms of the gold, in terms of other environmental services that are provided by the ecosystems.
Chicken.
Yeah, chicken is not exactly an environmental service. Probably talk about water and other things, the forest and so on and so forth, yeah? Yeah, probably how we share those services again and how we share those benefits and those resources again will inform how each and every other person will be able to have something they call their own and graduate to, being civil enough, yeah?
Yes.
But before I lose a point,
yes,
before my brother Atamba came in, you had asked me about some of the challenges that farmers are having.
Yes.
And I had just gone around 4. So I wanted to very quickly add that our farmers today have a challenge with the infrastructure, the rural infrastructure.
Yes.
The roads, the power, electrical power.
We saw the picture of the border person who had fallen with his milk.
Exactly. Those challenges are really quite big for farmers. We have challenges of new pests and diseases emerging, pests and diseases that were not previously there. And of course, we believe this because of climate change, but of course, there are other, changes that happen within the ecosystem that make some of these things to migrate. Today, there are farmers in Western Kenya, for example, and even parts of Nyanza, who are still struggling with the striga weed, something that we were supposed to have defeated many years ago. And you may be aware that the striga weed alone is playing a very big role in bringing down, the harvest of maize and such like. Yeah, and what I think would then be the best way forward, if I may have to build on what Atamba said, is as a people, are we able to really identify what our priorities are? When we go through our planning and our budgeting, and even the execution of the plans and the budgets, where do our priorities lie?
Yes.
Today, I'm a sad person because even if I had told you earlier that we did a lot of organization and mobilization to ensure that our farmers and other rural people are able to go and be part and parcel of the planning and budgeting process at the CIDP level. I'm also aware of the fact that both the county governments and the national governments, regardless of what appropriation bills were passed in parliament, regardless of what budgets were approved,
yes,
at some point
they're not incorporated.
At some point they do what we call a supplementary budget. And everything is swept away and new priorities come. And those priorities that come at supplementary budget we don't have an opportunity as citizens to participate and do some decision making around that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Atamba, I want to take you back in because we're almost out of time. I want you to talk about traceability systems and the role that it can play in resolving some of the challenges we've talked about. For example, if people could trace and tell where this chicken came from, where this maize came from, where these goats, cows, that sort of thing. In modern economies, we have traceability to the point where you can even tell where fruits, veg, flowers from Kenya came from and what chemicals were put in, those sorts of things. This would enable people really get into the accountability space, not just for production, but also for sourcing.
Yeah, no, exactly. We need to move to a level where, the farmers, produce from farmers can be secured. And not only for that purpose of securing it, but also for the purpose of also ensuring that the consumer understands what they are consuming. And a lot of people are eating chicken in Nairobi, and I think some of the people I see in Nairobi have even forgotten the indigenous one. So they are eating this one that is very soft, that you can eat without moving your arms. But you realize that, chicken is chicken, where you eat and take care of the plate, where the soup does not reach you. But at the end of the day, these issues that you see when you're talking about insecurity, for example, the banditry and the chicken thieves and the crops thieves, even in other counties is there. But you can address it by ensuring that at the market level, there is a bit of sanity at the market level. That when you show up with the tomatoes today in Kajiado town, that someone stops you before they ask you about the price to ask you, where is your farm? Where did you get these tomatoes from?
Can we see
if you appear with tomatoes, when someone is selling a piece at 10 shillings and you're selling a piece at 5 shillings, there should be immediately a kamkunji to confirm why you are selling your tomatoes very cheaply. Some of the chicken that farmers are losing, are being sold at 300 shillings when the real value of the chicken is 1,000 shillings. But this chicken end up where? They end up on our plates.
Yes, in Nairobi.
Even the beef that is being stolen in Baringo and all the banditry activities, the beef is ending up in our plates. So it's important that we ensure that we look at that, because it takes care of that traceability. But also we need to look at regulations, because when we talk about this, then the government says, okay, let's act. Then they come up with regulations. Again, we are the same people who come and say, we don't want the sector to be regulated.
Is the informal nature of our markets one of the deterrents to having real solutions?
It is. It is. A free market is good. An open market is good. Anyone can show up with anything at the market and sell and go home. But we also need to ensure that we need to take care of some of these insecurity issues. So if anyone can show up with maize and sell, then what will we tell the farmers who lose their maize? We don't have any of these mechanisms to ensure that we can tell that there is 500 cobs of maize that were sold at this market in Soi yesterday morning, and a farmer has come to complain, and then we can be able to trace from there and say, so it could be this 500. So can we follow up with the 500 with the person who brought this? So because it's really very petty that as a country, one of the biggest limitations is not that we don't have enough rain, that our soils are not fertile, or our animals are not producing enough, that we are stealing from each other in the rural areas. Basically, it's really such a pity. But my point also is that this requires regulations sometimes. So when regulations come, we should be, as actors, flexible enough to look at the regulations, make comments to the regulations, but let us not also be opposed to every regulation that the government tries to bring. There was the Ndengu bill, for example. I worked in the green gram value chain for several years. And the same green gram that a farmer in a place called Zombe in Kitui, which I've been to and worked with farmers there, the farmer is selling their green grams at 25 shillings a kilo. The same green grams is sold here in Kangemi market at 120 shillings. No value addition. You would imagine it has been repainted. The color is the same. Everything is the same, but the price is different.
So it's exploitation.
It's exploitation. So can we, and when someone comes up with such a law, then everyone is like, oh, now they want to tax the Ndengu. They want to tax our chicken. Can we have some system to say that this is where we need regulation, and maybe this is where we don't need regulations? But again, opposing everything is not very useful way forward.
I want to give you, gentlemen, just 30 seconds of closing time, and I want you to focus on anything that you feel we might not have dealt in and missed. I'll start with you, Evans.
Yeah, thank you. As we close down this discussion, I want to speak to food systems with regard to the current trends that are taking place out there. The shift to what we call agroecology. This is something that we, the farmers, are embracing for the simple reason that it speaks to our origin. Everything that is being discussed today around agroecology is actually what we used to do under our traditional systems of agriculture. So I would want to take this opportunity to encourage our farmers to embrace it and look for ways and means of ensuring that we bring down the cost of production, but we improve the quality of the output and the safety of the food that we produce, so that we are able to feed ourselves in dignity today, but also so that, again, we preserve and conserve the environmental services that enable us to do food production, so that the people who come after us will also be able to produce their own food in a way that will not be constrained.
So going back to our roots for regenerative agriculture.
Exactly.
Adam?
Yeah, I think addressing food systems or transforming our food systems is supposed to be holistic. And we cannot transform food systems without tackling poverty, especially in rural areas, rural poverty. We cannot address food system transformation without tackling access to clean energy, without tackling access to water, both for household use and also for agricultural production in rural areas. So for all the people that live in houses where there are taps, remember that the guys in rural areas also deserve those taps. You can imagine how much time you save every morning to take a shower and how much time it takes an average person in a rural area to go and take a shower somewhere behind bananas. So we have to make sure that we are addressing rural development holistically. That is the only way that we can exploit the potential that we have in our food systems. We are not badly off. I think we just need to straighten a few areas. And I think if we address rural development holistically, we are going to see a very big change.
Indeed, thank you. Addressing rural development holistically to drive change. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. It has indeed been an interesting discussion around the food systems, its transformation, and the governance aspect. But unfortunately, we have to leave it right there because we are out of time. But thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Asante.
Well, that there wraps up our discussion for the day. Of course, various different inputs as to how you can, of course, participate when it comes to the discussion around food systems, their transformation, the continued development, and especially as a young person and the advent of technology and how that can then drive further participation and creative, innovative, and fulfilling change. But unfortunately, that's where we have to bring it to a close. My name is Peter Akaba. The news continues to stay with us. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time here on Farm Kenya. To enjoy the rest of your viewing this afternoon.